Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be a character analysis on the character of Laurana from the Dragonlance Chronicles. It is a specific request from a subscriber, so thank you very much for letting me know what kind of character analysis is. Anyway, what kind of characters you'd like to see me talk about on the channel here and who you are most interested in. I would love to do what you guys like to see. And I did have a couple of subscribers also ask for Dragonlance based character analysis in general, so I was happy to do this one as the first one, especially since a big portion of Laurana's role is focused in the Dragonlance Chronicles. She is mentioned and a little bit in some of the other books, but this is where we really see her shine and really see a big bulk of her personality and her development. So I think that this was a great place to start. So thank you again for the subscriber that requested her. And so let's go ahead and jump right into it today. Obviously, as we mentioned, she is from the Dragonlance Chronicles, and at the beginning we see that she is an elf woman who lives in Qualanisti, and that's exactly where we meet her, and she is the daughter of the Speaker of the Sun. So we don't have like a big giant backstory profile of her at this point, but this is where we meet her, is in Qualanisti. And obviously Tanis, somebody that we were going to talk about a little bit later in relationship to her, was engaged with her before he left, and that is how she is tied in, is once they go back to Qualanisti during their adventures, we go ahead and meet her then. Okay, let's go ahead and start with her traits. I'm going to do two different sets of traits. We're going to see how she starts off with and then where she develops to, because she is a very dynamic character. She is somebody who starts at one point and develops and grows and changes and morphs throughout the 3 books into something and someone much different and much more mature and much better. I shouldn't say better, because that's a harsh way of thinking that where she started was not good, and that's not necessarily what I mean by that. I just mean that she becomes a different version of herself, someone who improves and grows and becomes even better than she was at the beginning. Did I just circle around the exact same thing? I feel like I got what I wanted to across on that. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on and actually get started with different traits. So, she starts off as a very naive woman. She's very kind, very friendly, very loving. She's very emotional, especially with, if we're going to do like saying that somebody acts on logic versus somebody who acts on emotion. She's somebody who definitely leans toward the emotion side. Her emotions are a lot of what guide her at this point. She is impulsive. At least that's how we see her. We don't know much about her before we see her. We don't know if she was always impulsive or not, but definitely from the perspective that we are given, she is very impulsive as she goes and makes her decisions based on her emotions. And she's very much a giver, and what I mean by that is she gives a lot of herself for other people, especially as we're going to talk about later, like Tanis and things like that. So she's a giver in the fact that she gives a lot of herself. She applies herself to the people that she cares about. She is constantly giving, and giving, even if she doesn't get anything emotionally in return. And then she develops over the course of the 3 books into someone who is very, very smart. She is still kind and friendly, of course. That doesn't change. Those are always the traits that she had that were really amazing for her personality and for her as a person. She becomes more logical. I'm not saying that she's completely unemotional. That is definitely not the case. But she develops more of a logical way of thinking. She takes more time to think about things and say, hey, what is the best option and what should I do versus what I want to do. She is very, very brave. We kind of see that you can she has a little bit of bravery at the beginning, and the fact that she does make these impulsive leaps to go out into danger. But at the same time, with her naivete, it's not as prevalent of like her making a brave choice and standing up in a battle and being willing to fight. So she develops a lot of bravery over the course of the books. She really becomes someone strong and willing to stand up in a fight, which is a different kind of brave. She's very thoughtful. She is still, like I mentioned, she's still emotional, even if it is no longer the main core driving her being. She still really is in tune with her emotions and how she feels about things, and usually that comes up even with the logical side. Her emotions do come up and try and contend with the logical side. She's much more mature. She's lost a lot of that naivete, a lot of that naive kind of feeling to her. And the fact that she definitely is like much more serious, not quite so carefree as well. So she's matures in a lot of different ways, matures emotionally, logically, matures in the way she thinks about things and about people. Just overall, constantly across the board, she is much more mature as a person. She becomes a much more experienced person. She's much more experienced with the world, a lot less, like we said, naive thinking. She has become a much more experienced, mature person. Okay, those are all the traits that I have for her starting and where she ends up at. Of course, if you have any thoughts on these traits or anything that you want to add that you think I missed that were really important, go ahead and mention them down below for me. I would love to hear everything that you would think about Laurana and the traits that she has and how she grows. So let's go ahead and talk about goals. She's got a couple, some of them from the beginning, some of them kind of develop, and there's a lot more of details to these goals than I feel like some of the other characters we've talked about. We talk about their goals, but they're a little bit more to the point, and these ones I feel like she has a lot of development behind these goals that she has. So the first goal I want to talk about is her getting Tanis's love. That is a goal that is right off at the beginning. The whole reason that she even joins the journey in the first place, the whole reason that she is involved in this epic battle in the end and in this war for good and evil is because originally she wants to get Tanis's love back. She realizes that she has lost him. Maybe she doesn't realize how, if she really truly has lost him, or if she just thinks that she can win him back. But she knows that she wants Tanis, and she's been waiting for Tanis for the years that he's been gone. And she has had him in her grasp, and then he's leaving again by also denying her, and she no longer is willing to stand by. She wants to get Tanis back. That is her main goal in her brain when she leaves the Qualanisty Elves and chases after Tanis, is to get him back and to prove that he should want to be with her. So it starts out as a very immature goal. And the fact that it's based off the fact that she is naive, it's based off the fact that she has not had experience with the world, it is based off of her just wanting to chase after this man that she loved and has left her. And she does not want to admit and let go. She is desperate to get him back and to get him to love her again. So it's purely a jealousy or purely a crush that she is chasing after, kind of like a schoolgirl crush, and you wander around and you're following after the guy in the hopes of, or girl, that you're hoping to make notice you. And that's how I feel like Laurana starts out as. She's purely just running on wanting her way and not wanting to admit defeat. It's not based off of any deep, mature feelings that were developed constantly through the years. It's not based on her, really realizing what she's stepping into and wanting to, help defend him, it being more about protecting him. It's literally just about her not wanting to admit that he is left her. But then, as we go through the books and as we go through the story and as she matures and develops, this goal also matures and develops. It grows to be much more of a mature goal. It's much more of a goal that she is choosing with her eyes open. She has fully seen who Tanis is. She has experienced who Tanis is. She has experienced his mistakes. She has experienced him when he's at his worst, when he is in the midst of a battle between good and evil. It's much more of a, I actually know who you are, and I know the pain that you have caused me, but I choose to love you and want you anyway. I've got my eyes open. I am not denying anything that you have done or anything that you will possibly do in the future. I understand, the risks of being with you, that kind of stuff. She fully, truly knows Tanis and accepts Tanis for who he is and still would like to have his love. Of course, at the end, she rejects the engagement ring or the promise ring that she had been given way before, that he tries to present her again. But she does still take him back and does still love him and does still want to create a future with him. So in the end, she does achieve her goal in the fact that she does get Tanis in the end. But throughout her journey, the goal that was originally just an immature kind of first love, hearts and flowers type of goal has now become a ragged, torn up, beat up goal that is still wanted, and she's willing to make it work, make it revive, so that way it can be something strong and beautiful. So I do think that Laurana gets a lot of crap for this goal in particular. And for me, especially the last time I read it for us on this channel, I had a lot more of bittersweet feelings about this goal, and especially how it ended. But I do think in the end that she makes the decisions that she makes with her eyes open, and she is a mature woman who then knows what's best for her and what she wants to do with her life. So I do think that this goal in the end is something that she made willingly and knowingly and still followed it through to the end. Even though it changed and morphed and grew, it still was something that was important to her, and that is good that she reached the goal that was important to her. Now, the other goal is one that we get for her, that she kind of develops, in the fact that she has thrown herself into this conflict, and it kind of just ends up in her bag, kind of like it just ends up in her goals because she doesn't really have much of an option otherwise. And that is to help defeat evil and help defeat Takhisis. It just kind of, she just falls into this group based on her first goal, the one that was immature and not well developed, and that just leads her to becoming this mature woman who then takes on this goal that was thrown upon her. This goal of leading armies, of trying to defeat evil, to restore the balance to this world that is so out of whack and just destroying itself because evil has returned and Takhisis is trying to take over the world. So it really helps, it really develops because as she matures and as she becomes more of an experienced person, she can see that this is an important goal, and it's kind of just thrown at her. A lot of different things are just thrown at her, and she decides to take this goal on and charge forward, fully expecting there to be danger and there to be problems. But she's going to go ahead and, because she cares about people, she's going to go ahead and throw herself at this goal. And in the end, she is very helpful in defeating a lot of evil and winning a lot of battles for the side of good. Alright, so next I want to go ahead and talk about her role in the story. And I noticed that she has 3 main roles in this story. Some of them all the time, some of them just part of the time, she kind of morphs and develops as she grows, and then she fills different types of roles. So the first role is the lover. She wants Tanis to return her love so badly that she chases after him into this dangerous situation. Now, obviously, she doesn't, I don't believe, really realize what she's doing and where she's chasing him into, but I'm not 100% sure that if she did realize that would stop her either. So this, her being the lover, and the especially her being kind of being thrown out as the lover and not being wanted anymore, is how she gets into this story to begin with. It's how she enters this story and how she is kept in the story once they are moving past where she is at. So it's really an important role for her, especially since as she continues to grow and to continue forward, Tanis is then, some of the time, taking her side on being like, no, Laurana's the person for me, and is sort of being the lover on his side as well. So first it's just on her side, and then Tanis is developing it by seeing her as the lover in this situation for him as well. It affects many of her decisions, even after she has been more mature and she's grown and she has moved forward and is developing more mature feelings for Tanis. It still affects several of her decisions, whether it to be good or bad. So some of it is like, hey, what are the next steps I need to be taking? Well, what would Tanis do? And I want to try and emulate Tanis because I know that Tanis would make the good choice here. So that's him helping her make a decision, even if that is a good decision. And there's also her making bad decisions in the fact that she goes and falls into a trap from the enemy, from Kitiara's trap, based on her love of Tanis. So either way, whether they're good or for bad, they are heavily motivated and heavily brought about by Tanis when she doesn't know what to do, or in some cases when she is making decisions based on what she hears about Tanis. Either way, it's still a decision based on him. And in the story, it's, like I said, it's not always good, it's not always bad, but it does solidify her role as the lover throughout all three of the books that she is in. Really, her love and wanting the love of Tanis is really a defining factor for her, as well as, in the end, a defining factor for Tanis as well. So it's reciprocated on both sides. Then, she is also a loyalist. Now, a loyalist is somebody who, no matter what, remains loyal. And that is how she is with Tanis and with her friends as well. Not just, doesn't have to be just Tanis. Not everything is always just about Tanis for her, especially as she matures and grows, even if he is a large part. But she is definitely a loyalist. Her friends, Tanis, no matter what happens, she has their back and she wants to do what's best for them. She remains loyal to the very end. And especially if we're going to talk about Tanis, with how he treats her and how terribly he is to her, and being with Kitiara and all that. And even though she doesn't know the full story about being with Kitiara and fully that he, what's in his mind or whatnot, she remains loyal to him and has faith in him. So no matter how untrustworthy Tanis becomes, or how much it hurts her to remain loyal to decisions that other characters make, like for example Strum, she remains 100% loyal to them and wants to do what's right by them, as well as doing what's right by the situation. So 100% she protects people, her friends, her family, the people that she believes is in her care. 100% she's loyal to a man who was definitely not loyal to her, and definitely a very complicated person. Either way, she remains loyal through all of it, and all she wants to do is care about those people and to do what is best for them. So she's definitely a lover, and she's definitely a loyalist throughout the whole set of the novels that we see her as. Now, her last role is as a leader, and that is something that comes up later in the story. It comes in a lot after book 2. Comes in a little bit at book 2, but mostly comes after book 2, especially as she is the leader for the main forces with the dragon armies once the dragons come back into the picture. So it's a very unexpected role for her. It just falls into her lap and it's kind of forced upon her, but she does an excellent job. She does learn a lot of wisdom about war and how you should go about defeating evil, and actually makes it so she pushes back the dragon armies and is actually doing a very excellent job, and becomes a symbol of hope for defeating evil to all the people that she helps and all the people who are counting on her. So the knights kind of force it on her in the fact that they don't really have anybody else. But she fills that role excellently. She really steps up to the plate and takes that leadership role seriously, tries her best, and pretty much exhausts herself to getting to the point that she can actually make progress. So it's very, very inspiring to see how much she grows and develops, that she can become that leader that she would never have been at the beginning of the books. If you saw any other roles for her, I know she's a very complicated character and very complex, very lots of different things that she could fulfill and embody because she grows so much. So if you have anything that you feel like I missed, any roles that you felt like she definitely also is as this role as well, please let me know down below. I would love to hear about it and to know your thoughts on the matter, or any thoughts on the ones that I mentioned already. Would love to hear about them. And now let's go ahead and move on to what she brings to the story. Now again, this is another part where it's kind of hard to classify her in the fact that she fulfills so many different roles, so many different things. She develops so well from one thing, or one person, I shouldn't say thing, one kind of person to this new kind of person. So she's kind of all over the map, and also such a complex character that it's hard to nail down exactly like this, boom, boom. So I have one thing that I feel like really embodies what she brings to the story, and that is relatability. We see her as somebody that's relatable and that we admire. Or at least that's how I see her, as somebody that's relatable and that I admire. Somebody who I would like to be like. And the fact that she grows so much, but also she has that naivete that allows us to bring us in to see her situation. Everybody has loved somebody, and everybody has lost that love. I'm sure that everybody has experienced that sometime in their life, just like her, and that's somebody that they don't want to let go and might choose to chase after. Maybe you don't, but you at least know somebody that you wish you could have chased after, or not. Something in that situation is where you either thought about chasing after them, you wished you could chase after them, you wish that it ended differently, something like that, where you have the heartbreak that Laurana feels at the beginning that leads her to making this impulsive decision to joining the party. So you have that relatability of loving somebody so much that you just want to hold on to them. And then we have the relatability of her just being a kind person trying to figure out how she can make herself work and be helpful in this situation that she's now in. Because a lot of times we find ourselves in situations that we don't know, or things that we're not clear about, whether we purposely went into them or we accidentally got into them, or we were kind of forced into these situations, and we have to figure out how we're going to deal with them. So I feel like she gives us that relatability as well, where the fact that, okay, she finds herself now, I've brought this upon myself, I've chased after Tannis, and now I have to get it together and figure out how I'm going to make it work. So she gives us that portion of relatability. So we've got the relatability of, you know, her motivation at the beginning. We've got her relatability of how she's trying to manage the situation she's come into. And then we have the relatability of just being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm just somebody who got myself into this situation. I don't know what you want from me. I'm just doing my best, especially when, you know, the knights kind of force her into this leadership role, and she's like, how am I supposed to lead people? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to necessarily do it. But she steps up to the plate and she does the best she can, and she does it extremely well. And that's where the relatability and the admiration really peak, in the fact that she is once again put in this situation where she's like gotta figure out how to go about it. She's gotta, you know, get on point and get to know what she needs to do real quick. And she succeeds and she tries her best, and she is a strong woman. So I really see her as somebody who is relatable, somebody you admire, somebody you follow and you root for, and you watch her grow and you watch her struggle and you just relate to her, and you understand that even though she's not human, she is an elf, but she has so many human qualities that you just relate to her and you relate to the situation that she's in. If you see anything else that she brings to the story that you think that I really should talk about or that really should be added, I would love to hear your opinion down below. Like I said, she is a very complex, complicated character, so sometimes pinning it down to just one thing is very, very hard. But I felt like this really encompassed her, and what she really brings to this story is just, you know, your connection to her and your connection to a lot of the other characters through her. And last but not least, I have one more topic I would like to discuss for her, and that is to discuss her relationships. Especially because, as we've talked about already in this analysis, some of her relationships, one in particular, is very, very important to her character and the decisions that she makes. So I feel like it's very important to discuss on that. But also I just feel like there's a couple different relationships that really stand out when it comes to her as a character. So we'll get the main one out of the way. We've already talked a bit about it, and that is her relationship with Tanis. So the relationship with Tanis is important to her character because it's what gets her involved in the first place, which we've already discussed a little bit, is that this is the whole reason that she is in this story comes from her love of Tanis and wanting that goal of getting his love back and getting him back and not being able to admit defeat or admit that he has moved on from her. So she is charging after the love of Tanis. That is one of her main goals. And so it's very, very important that Tanis is in this and is attached with her, because that is the whole basis of how things come about for her as a character. The whole beginning and entrance for this story for her, it revolves around Tanis. And a lot of what keeps her in this story and not going back to the elves is Tanis. So her love for him is the whole anchor to this character throughout much of the story. And her love of him also drives her to change and to morph and to become that more mature woman. Because, as we mentioned very briefly beforehand, is that some of her decisions that she makes that are good and are more mature and are what is necessary for her to become a better person and for her to live through this situation that she's put herself in, is based on Tanis and how Tanis would handle it, or how she has seen Tanis's leadership skills and she's adapting them for her own. So her relationship with Tanis, her love of Tanis, is actually what not only puts her in this situation, but is what keeps her from dying in this situation, that keeps her moving forward, that keeps her progressing, that keeps her following what her morals are telling her are the right way, because she thinks about what would Tanis do, what would Tanis think, and how do I apply that to myself and what I think personally, and that is what moves her forward through this book. This link that she has with Tanis is the key factor of Laurana being able to even grow. It's what gives her the opportunity to grow, and the fact that if she didn't taste after Tanis and she just stayed in the elven realm and just stayed with the elves, she would forever remain this naive woman that didn't really understand the complexity of the world and the complexity of those around her, and might never grow into somebody as strong and brave and beautiful and wonderful as Laurana does. And this tie with Tanis dictates and helps facilitate this growth and this character becoming from one place to the next. So even though it's a very harsh relationship, in some ways I think it's a very toxic relationship for her on her side, it's also a really great relationship and a really inspiring one for her. So it's got two different natures. It's got the Tanis is treating you badly and yet you're chasing after him anyway. That seems like that's a stupid decision. But there's also that he brings a lot of good to your world, and he brings a lot of growth and opportunities and new thought processes that really develop her into a great, wonderful person that can survive the harsh world and can help others who are weaker than her survive this harsh world. So, very, very important relationship in the story from both sides, but especially for Laurana's side, it is very, very good, very, very important. Not always all good, but has a lot of good and has a lot of bad that comes with it, just as some relationships just have good pros and cons, and that's the way it works out for most relationships. Is some things are good and some things are bad, and you're just hoping that the good outweigh the bad. I don't know if the good outweighed the bad for her. From my perspective, I feel like there was a lot of bad a lot of the time, but I also see a lot of good that it brought her. And in the end, she decided the good outweighed the bad and decided to keep him and that relationship in her life. The next one is going to be a little bit of a shorter one. It's still an important relationship to her, but it doesn't have quite as much history, and so it's just more of a smaller relationship. But Strum is a very important person in Laurana's life. Strum really, really helps her mature and grow. It's actually I feel like just as much Strum helping her grow as Tanis helping her grow. Because Strum shows her how brave and how moral humans can be. I mean, she doesn't have a lot of experience with any other races until she joins Tanis's group. And there's a lot of prejudice from the elves. But Strum really teaches her how to have strong, I want to say wonderful, but strong, passionate morals that are for the good of others, and to show what goodness can be in this world and what honor can be in the world, and how somebody should behave if they truly want to help people and truly want to stand against evil. And that helps her grow so much. Helps her become such a strong person. Helps her become someone who could lead armies. Somebody who teaches her a lot of war and strategy and about sacrifice. Because in the end, Strum sacrifices himself to win the battle. And the elves are very, very against suicide and very, very against the loss of life. And so him sacrificing himself really does a number on Laurana, because she becomes so close to him and becomes just as close as him and Tanis were in many ways, that he becomes a very irreplaceable friend for her, someone who she loved and cared about a whole lot. And to see him sacrifice himself for the good of others really is an impact on her. and how she moves forward from book 2 through all of book 3 and making those battle decisions and being a warrior really comes from Strum. And then last but not least, I would like to talk about her father, the Speaker of the Sun. And he has a much smaller role. Even though we do see him a couple times, he does have a much smaller role in general, especially in relationship to Laurana. But he is important in the fact that he solidifies Laurana in certain ways. So she develops through book 1, she's developing through book 2, and becoming, once they're separated, she's becoming more of a leader, she's moving up, she's developing this relationship with Strum, she's learning and maturing and growing into the beautiful person that she becomes. And then she sees the elves again and is in her father's house again and realizes how small-minded she was at the beginning. She realizes how naive she was, how small-minded she was, how sheltered she was. And she realizes how wrong the elves are in their thought process, how naive they are, how selfish they are, how harsh they are, how wrong they are in many ways. Everything that she has learned, she comes back to the place that she began it all and realizes, holy crap, this is what I believed, this is what the elves believe, and it's simply not jiving with how she feels at all anymore. It's kind of a wake-up call to be like, this is how I was raised to believe, and this is how I felt before, but this is how wrong I was. And she realizes then how wrong the elves are and how wrong her father is in the way that he acts, and her brother, the way that he acts, and just helps her commit and helps her solidify and realize her own morals and her own decisions and all the growth that she's made. It just helps solidify it. And that is why she goes against her family. She takes the orb and the lance and is out the door. She realizes that she can no longer remain loyal to the elves when the elves are just fighting amongst themselves, thinking that they're better than the humans, when really they're acting less than the humans do. They're acting more small-minded and they're acting more prejudiced than the humans are and the other races are. And she just realizes through her father and through the elves, revisiting the elves in general, that was not how she was going to be anymore. And that was not how she was going to let her life be led. And that she wanted to continue to make a difference in the world and not be a selfish race that will keep the dragon orb for themselves and let the rest of the world fend for themselves. So it really just helps her realize that her path has moved on from the elves and has moved forward, and that she is a much more evolved person. Whew. Okay, that was all I had today for our character analysis on Laurana. I truly hope that you enjoyed today's lesson, and as always, if you wish to comment on anything I've said, let me know if you think I missed anything or anything that I got wrong, or if you just want to make your own suggestion of what's next or whatever else. Anything you want to say, any comments, any questions, any concerns, anything I need to go over again and explain differently so you can understand better. Whatever it is, you can always comment down below. I would love, love, love to hear from you. Or you're also welcome to reach out to me on Twitter, which is at Fantasy Fiction 1. Or you're welcome to do the same on Facebook, which is also/Fantasy Fiction 1. Or if you want some more content from me, you are welcome to go over to my blog. There is quite a bit of content on there now, several book reviews, discussions on different topics of fantasy, any character terminology, fantasy terminology, book terminology, recommendations if you need recommendations, things that I like, personal anecdotes from me, discussions, like I said, on things that I think about for fantasy fiction or reading in general. All that kind of good stuff is going to be over on my blog, which is fantasyfictionfanatics.net. You can also contact me on there as well. I do have a contact form. You can also subscribe to my newsletter over there, where I send out I've just started doing monthly newsletters where I'll send out all the stuff from the past month, as well as a little bit of own personal stuff from me if you want to know a little bit more about me. Anything else that's kind of going on, I will make sure to put on there as well. So yeah, hopefully you can find more content that you like over there. You're also welcome to request anything that you'd like on there, as well as on here, either way, through the comments or any of the other ways to reach me. Also, I do have email, which is listed down below if you would like to find me through email as well. Whatever works best, I just would love to have a discussion with you and learn with you. And yeah, I guess that's it. I will go ahead and see you in the next class. Bye.